What up, everybody, and welcome back to yet another Sound of Violence podcast. We are an MMA podcast. To let you know the MMA podcast you should catch, skip, and can't miss each week. I am Pulver, and I am back yet again with my co-host, Chris Madaffer. What up, dude?
It's another day, man. Another beautiful day in sunny San Diego, if I might say so myself.
It's very nice out.
Yeah, for all of you who don't have the pleasure that we do of living in this fine city, well, good luck to you in your endeavors of bad weather.
That's right. And of your poor beer. I'll go ahead and segue us.
Yeah, thank you. Everyone's a bunch of peasants.
That's right. So why don't we jump into our Pop-Off Vodka presents Doug Stanhope presents our sponsors. Chris, why don't you start us off with what you're drinking tonight?
So before that, disclaimer, I am very, very high on weed. Disclaimer, not cocaine or anything crazy.
Yeah, no, everybody was thinking it was cocaine for sure, but now I'm glad you clarified.
Yeah, just kind of get into it. No, just be very mellow, relax. So first shout out is unofficially to some good mech that I bought today. Not
Old
bad,
school.
but,
it's classic San Diego move.
Yeah, outdoor sun dry, dude. You know what you want to call it. But in all seriousness, though, as far as the beer thing goes, just going with Modelo today.
Nice. So, look at you on brand. Did you sell out to the UFC and did not tell me? Oh, man, I spoiled it. Shit.
Oh, no.
I didn't know I was co-hosting with Stipe I almost said Stipe Madaffer. I'm going to go with it.
Stiapich, or just call me Ortega now. Right?
Yeah.
He's the new Modelo guy.
So. That's right. Old blue eyes. Sweet, man. Well, so Chris clarified that he is a little blaze right now. I am actually a little buzzed. I've been at Burning Beard, the brewery out here. It's actually, I guess, technically in El Cajon, but it's around the edge of El Cajon and Santee. I've been out there since, I don't know, for the last 4 or so hours. I tried literally every beer they had on tap, and they're fantastic. So I am drinking.
Oh yeah,
I gotta
check that out too.
Yeah, it's super good. I got a crowler of the You Tacky Thing Hazy IPA, which I'll pour right now, but it's fucking delicious. Actually, I didn't have one beer there that I didn't think was fucking incredible.
Also, that was way hazier than the Ballast Point you had.
That's just because it's pouring. It's not that hazy. It's it's hazy, but it's not that. Like it's mildly hazy. Also, I poured it all over my phone, so that's a good look.
Cool.
That's right. So now that we've gotten into this, I'm gonna take a sip of this fucking delicious thing. Oh, I should also mention our other super official, totally not just because I like the dude, sponsor, Magnus Warrior. As you guys can see on the video version, I am rocking the Magnus Warrior shirt. The style's bending. Shouts out to Jamal over there, who's a super cool dude. Law Fits on the MMA community forums. That dude's awesome, and he sent me a shirt because I fucking wrecked house in the MMA community league last season. So
yeah, see, he told me he sent me my shirt, but I never got it, so it's all good.
Did he send it to your old address?
No, I remember he had told me, hey, what's the address sent? I give me the correct address sent to it, and then he's like, hey, it says you received it at this date, and I was like, I didn't. He's like, oh, so I'm like, it's all good.
Weird. Well,
so some kid is probably wearing my Magnus Warrior shirt.
That's right. There's some kid out there rocking it.
No, I gave my championship award to some kid. That's great.
Understandable. So. Oh, also, I should mention, you guys are listening to the, I believe, season 23 Monsters Pick'em Champion. Since I found out that the last season of the Monsters Pick'em stuff that we did on the MMA community forums, I actually won, which that was nice. A couple months ago. So I've been the champ the whole time. Check out my gold name on the MMA community forums. Flat out. But anyway, we'll keep on moving on. We'll actually get into format now that I've officially shouted out fucking everybody. But yeah, if you guys are interested at all in fantasy MMA and you want to start a league with your buddies, magwar.com, magwar.com. It's fun as hell. Chris and I actually just started up we jumped in a league with Jamal for the, it's like a $10 league that should be It looks like it's going to be fucking brutal, man. Our buddy Jake is also in it.
Dude, I already fucked up that one draft.
Oh, that's right.
Man,
you grabbed Nunes when Nunes isn't even in the
because I
within
thought
the
she
3
was,
months.
I thought she was 238, and no, she was on 239 with John Jones. And
I almost picked up John Jones in the exact same kind of move.
Yeah, and I was like, I'll do a gamble. Let's go Masvidal. He's got to fight June, right? And the UFC wanted him to fight June 8th.
You were that close.
So now it's July 6th, and it's like, well, what are you going to do?
Yeah. Well, it should be a fun one regardless. So, Chris, why don't you go ahead and jump us off into format before we get too much more distracted? Why don't you start off with the MMA podcast you recommend people catch this week?
So I have multiple catches this week. I'll go quickly and start with the first one. I'll be honest, I can't remember the last time I kind of had this podcast as a catch. No disrespect to this podcast. Usually pretty solid. I think I've just kind of had a few issues just with some of the pacing of the past few months. But anyways, it's UFC Unfiltered, episode 281. Their guests on the phone was Ali Quinta and Curtis Blades. I believe were the two that I... Yeah,
I think there's one more. I think there was one more guest that you're forgetting.
Oh, yeah, I remember now who it was.
Let me give you a hint.
Good old Dana White.
Yeah.
I don't know if I wanted. I was thinking about, should I say it? I'm like, I guess I kind of wanted to feel like,
you're gonna go Uncle Fester,
and then I'll just go off. No, I was gonna go off the notes, and everyone's like, oh wait, he's talking about the third guest. Of course, it's him. So yeah, Dana White. I was going to keep it a secret, but you would just tell by what I wrote down that it's him. Anyways, Matt was talking about Curtis Blades' ability to feint shooting, mixing his feints about like kind of just disguising shooting for striking. I mean, that's how that fight went against Justin Willis. He kept it to the ground, and I think Blades has the most takedowns now, like in UFC heavyweight history, which is crazy. I didn't realize that.
Well, he got 14 in that fight, which did not hurt the record. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. So Curtis Blades was on the phone. First on the phone was Ali Quinta. He says he's excited to be on the same fight card as teammate Merab Dvalishvili. I think is his name. The guy from Georgia.
Dvalishvili.
The country, of course, not the American state. For all those who may or may not be confused. That guy's fighting Brad Katona. That's a great fight.
It is. I think he houses Brad Katona, but I do like it.
Ali Quinta was on the Ali Quinta's still talking, excuse me. He thinks it's good for Kevin Lee that he's moving up to 170. Then again, he says, I don't give a fuck if Kevin Lee wins or loses. I just think it's better that he's at 170 now, better for his health. Al said he would have loved to fight Justin Poirier, but he thinks Max Holloway moving up is an exception to the champs that move up and like kind of cut the line per se, whatever you want to call it. Because he's defended his belt a lot and he's great everywhere. You can make an argument for Henry Cejudo getting the bantamweight title shot because he beat the now former bantamweight champ TJ Dillashaw as a reason why he gets to fight for the title. I don't necessarily disagree with that, and I kind of like that matchup anyway. But we'll talk about that in the future pretty soon. I can't remember when that fight is.
Yeah, not too far out.
Ali Quinta talked about a story when he was rooming with a friend upstate, I believe, or near Jersey, and Bryce Mitchell was in their backyard hunting squirrels with a BB gun.
Bryce Mitchell used to live with Al.
Yeah, that's what but he said that dude is absolutely wild but hilarious. I know he had his power tool injury and fell off a fucking ladder.
Yeah, that's the craziest part about that story that nobody talks about.
In the middle of Arkansas.
Yeah, he fell off like a 12-foot ladder, which is the craziest part of that story. I'm not sure whether he unwound his nuts and then fell off the ladder or fell off the ladder and then unwound his nuts. But either way, fucking crazy move.
Yeah. Curtis Blades called in, says the sport doesn't need any idiots like Justin Willis.
Yeah, I believe he said jack-offs, technically.
Yeah, jerk-offs, jag-offs, whatever you want to call it. He said, one thing a lot of people don't know about me is that I've actually never been in a street fight, even though he grew up in Southside Chicago. He said he grew up on the outskirts of the hood, so he wasn't necessarily kind of like in the hood, but he said he got jumped a couple of times. That's a rite of passage in Chicago. And he said he just didn't have that. He didn't have that inkling to fight back. Not that it's not saying he's like some wimp or anything like that, which clearly he's not. But he said it's because his dad was a cop, so he knew he couldn't really afford to fuck up. and get himself in trouble, especially when your
Yeah.
dad's a police officer. That's not a good look. They said, who do you want next? He wants Stipe or Junior Dos Santos. That sounds all fun, except that Junior Dos Santos just got announced that he's fighting Francis Ngannou now on July 6th. So that just got added to the already stacked 239 card, which is John Jones, Thiago Santos, Ben Askren, and Jorge Masvidal, which got announced today as well, and Amanda Nunes, Holly Holm. That's a really good card.
It's a fucking solid card.
Chris, the producer, breaks down how wrong they were with their picks.
Chris, the producer.
Yeah. Dana calls in. He talked about Nunes versus Holm. Cyborg should be after, sure, yada yada yada. He loved Anthony Pettis' game plan about attacking Wonderboy's legs. Then he talks Connor briefly, saying he didn't want a co-main event slot, and the UFC brass only wants title fights to be main events in the pay-per-views. Talk about I want to do Thiago versus. This is him saying I'm gonna actually announce this at the end of the week, but let me tell you now, kind of shit. So
yeah, he at one point he said they were looking at making Ben Saunders versus Mike Perry, which is fucked up. I'm glad they didn't actually book that fight.
Yeah, now it's Mike Perry versus Alex Oliveira.
Yeah, which is a much better fight. That'd be fucked up. Ben Saunders has had a rough couple fights, and to give him fucking Mike Perry, who's a terrible style matchup. Like, not that I don't think he could take it, Mike Perry, but like, God, man, that's not the fight I would have made. And then he also at one point avoids like the fucking plague talking about TJ popping. Because I forget who brought it up, whether it was Matt or Jim.
Yeah,
he avoided it like the
didn't he just go like
plague.
this? They asked him a question about, no. They asked him like, hey, Dana, as far as TJ popping, was it like a diuretic or due to weight cut or not steroids, right? And Dana was just like, yeah.
He's like, yeah, it's unfortunate. Yeah. Like, what the fuck was that? So yeah, it was a weird like measured response from him in a way that he rarely does, which makes me think that shit is probably sketchy as fuck.
Yeah, TJ's probably screwed.
He also, towards the end of that episode, he does a weird ad read for Tony Robbins, like they all do. It's fucking weird. Like, yo, do you guys like really pompous, self-motivated speakers? How do you feel about Billy Graham? Do you want like Billy Graham with a ponytail? Tony Robbins. And then I think they also mentioned that he's doing I believe actually tonight when we're recording this, he's out at LFA looking for a fight with Matt Serra.
Okay.
Which I'm like one of the 5 people who like that show, I guess. I don't know. Maybe because they went to Crazy Burger here in San Diego.
I liked it when they had Dean Thomas on there because his reactions are hilarious.
Oh, it's so much better now that Dean Thomas is on instead of Nick the Tooth. It's fucking great. Dean Thomas and Matt Serra are hilarious together, and the San Diego episode is still one of my favorites.
So yeah, that's what I thought of that. I guess what do I have? I have 2 more catches, but I'll just.
You know what? I'll jump into one.
I was gonna say, yeah, you should jump into one.
Yeah, I actually have a couple catches as well. So I'll just throw my first catch out there. Eugene S. Robinson, Show Stompa, V58. Mostly just because. So this is recorded on Sunday or Monday, one of those. And if you guys remember, Connor news broke either late Monday or Tuesday. And the day before, Eugene, as he has been doing for a while now, talks about the Irish sports star who was accused of anal rape. Who he's been saying it. He's been talking about it consistently for months now, and he's the only fucking journalist with any kind of fucking integrity. Well, he's the only journalist who isn't scared about being sued to death. Who would actually talk about it on the record, which he's been doing for months.
No, and I give him a lot of credit for that. I remember he mentioned it. I've seen on some of the websites because I kind of looked into that whole investigator.
We both did when it first came out. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I like Eugene's mindset. If you feel strongly about something, as long as you can report it, in an objective manner, but
that's what he was always doing.
And he is doing it, and you're still analyzing both sides of the argument. Obviously, I don't know how the Irish legal system is as far as it's innocent until proven guilty or guilty until proven innocent.
No, it's more the other way. It's basically you cannot name the accused until after they've been found guilty.
Oh, fuck, that's right. Someone mentioned, maybe it was their podcast.
It was a bunch of podcasts this week that have talked about it. But,
I heard that terminology thrown around this week.
But it's pretty widely known. It comes from what I understand. A lot of it comes from a lot of the Irish priests out there being accused of horrific things, and then their legal system kind of hiding them for a while. I don't know for sure. That's just what I've been hearing.
AKA the Catholic Church giving the government a lot of money.
That doesn't sound like the Catholic Church I know, Chris. Normally, they're so well-rounded, and they don't fuck children on the regs.
Or
anyway.
fucking sexually assault nuns.
Yeah, well, I feel like that is like...
There's a report that came out of that, too. The Pope... It's funny. It's sad. Like, the Pope's like, I care. I want to arrest these... I want to put these people, to shame. And then at the other side, it's like, well, but here's money for you to delay that talk. And it's like, well, shit.
Yeah, Catholic churches, they're notorious for being on the right side of justice every time. Anyway, no, but I just wanted to really shout out this show mostly because he's been consistently talking about this shit, because I think he even said, I don't know if this was on If I Did It or if it was on the Show Stomper, but Eugene had said at one point he talked to a lawyer and he was like, hey, this guy in England wants to sue me. And the lawyer goes, well, where do you live? Eugene goes, I live in California. He goes, well, okay then. Not really a problem. They're not going to fucking extradite you to goddamn whatever country it is to charge you, and you're not planning on going there, so it doesn't fucking matter. Which was a great embodiment of, number one, just how Eugene handles things, but also why that dude's podcast, especially the Eugene S. Robinson Showstopper, you will sit through some stories about crazy shit. He might make you listen to him telling a story about how at one time he had to kill his dog. Like, it's not a happy time always on that show, but you'll learn some shit. Like, that dude is not afraid to say what the fuck he thinks and what the fuck he's been hearing. And I respect the shit out of it, because there's not many people in the sport who will. So yeah, that's the main thing I wanted to shout out from that. Also, he talked about Justin Willis looking fucking terrible and motivating the shit out of Blades. He also talks about how he loves the nickname Big Titty so much, and how Macy Barber is basically embodying Ronda at the worst times in Ronda's career.
Oh, dude, someone brought that up too.
It might have been Eugene on another show also.
I think
he's been pretty vocal about it, and he's got some points.
Fuck, dude. Yeah, well, I don't want to comment anymore on the whole comparisons between those two fighters, but that's good points that he brings up. Yeah.
And overall, that show, while it's weird as hell, and while it's not always 100% MMA related, like, I feel like I learned some shit. Like, that's the only show where I will consider, well, that's not the only one. That show and anything Jordan Breen touches are the only times I will get consistent Nietzsche references or shit like that, where you're like, all right, I respect it. Or, well, and also, like, or you'll get a crazy story about fucking Henry Rollins or fucking Black Flag or Bad Brains or New York punk scene, that kind of shit. So maybe it's just because it's so down in my wheelhouse, but I really enjoy that show.
Yeah, and of course, I always enjoy when Eugene talks about when he wanted to be an actor, and I auditioned for this role, for this actor. Can you believe that?
Yeah. Or how he, like, his horrible interactions with actors over the years, which he has a lot of.
Yeah, I mean, you know me, I'm a huge movie buff, and there's only probably a handful of actors that are actually kind and humble and nice.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a big
film fan.
One of them, by the way.
Go ahead.
One of them, by the way, evidently, is Brad Pitt. Very nice human being. So
Steve Buscemi, I've heard, is also very nice.
Yeah. Yeah, and the most thing that's parroted on Reddit is that he was a fighter during 9/11. So I think that kind of helps him being a nice human being on a lot of different levels. So
yeah, it doesn't hurt for sure.
But that's the one I remember. Like, the Today I Learned on Reddit. That's like always, like, as a joke, people will say, "Hey, did you know this guy? This guy?" It's like, yeah, you got it.
Cool, man. Well, why don't we keep on moving on? Why don't you get us into the second MMA podcast you recommend people catch this week?
So the second one I recommend people should catch is the Co-Main Event podcast. I can relate to this. Chad said ESPN Plus reeled me back in. You know what? I'm back as well.
Eugene said that also on Showstomper.
I like it. It's only $5. My main thing is, what do I do with Fight Pass? So I'm gonna hold on to it for now. I'm just curious if they add a fight library to ESPN Plus. That has to be inevitable, though, right?
Nope.
Granted,
I think they'll move.
Growing relationship with.
I think they'll move the big stuff. I don't think they're gonna move overall the entire catalog.
Yeah. Well, I'll just keep both. Fuck it. They talked about Marlon Chito Vera being a little too honest in his assessment of the rules after his controversial win. They don't think it necessarily hurts him in the long run, though. But they thought it was a little interesting the way he talked about how he won that fight. Did he have some illegal blows to the back of the head to some extent?
Yeah, a little bit. Not a little bit. He definitely did. But it was after he clubbed dude on the feet and he was going for the ground and pound finish. And the last two or I think it was two. I would have to rewatch it. Definitely were to the back of the head, which that's one of those things dudes are turning, you're both in motion. It's not a great look, but also Dundasso.
Yeah, Dundasso for sure. They talk about Bryce Mitchell, his power drill injury, falling off a 20-foot ladder, and then he wins Fight of the Night bonus later that next week. What a legend. They talked about Luis Pena, a.k.a. we might know him as Violent Bob Ross. They said that's one of those nicknames where you have to keep the hair if you want your name to stay.
Good point.
Ben said this guy looks like a skeleton at 145, and he insists on staying there. We'll see about that. You and I called it. He didn't make weight. He did not.
Yep. He fucking blew weight and then won the fight, which I don't know why I picked against him if I thought he was going to blow weight.
Yeah. But we thought he was going to get knocked out, I think. Or no, I did. Excuse me. That's me, not you.
Well, I might have thought that as well. Here, keep talking. I'll look.
Macy Barber is a work in progress, and Ben and Chad are both afraid that the UFC will push her too soon, like what happened to Sage Northcutt. That's a good point. She's 20 or some shit like that.
Yep.
They said Wonder Boy was winning that fight 100% until he got caught, and that's all it takes sometimes. That's pretty much the summary of that fight. That's what I'd say about that fight. He was going to win that fight. Probably, do you think in the second round? I think they were going to stop it if he kept piecing
I don't. Yeah, it depends. Pettis did do, which Conor Rebus was the first person I heard pointed out, but Dana White actually also pointed out on Unfiltered and on Slip and Dip podcast, Stephen Wright pointed out as well that Pettis was doing a really good job at banging the legs of Wonder Boy early and often, and just at a certain point, just constantly countering with that leg kick, just to either set up high kicks or to break down his movement. Since Wonder Boy stands so long, Joe Schilling actually also had a very good breakdown of it on the TSN MMA show podcast, where he talked about how when people are in that bladed stance, their knees are only facing one direction. So if you start kicking to that direction and they start checking it that way and you switch stances southpaw, you can just bang the back of the legs as hard as you want and they can't turn quick enough to check it. So I thought that was a really cool breakdown from Joe Bazooka Valtellini. And that whole podcast actually did a very good breakdown of that fight. But yeah, there was a lot of very good breakdowns of that actually. And while everyone agrees that yes, Pettis lost the first two rounds, he also was setting up a game plan that pretty consistently worked. I believe Heavy Hands also had a reference to it looking a lot like the Rick Rufus fight when he fought the dude who chopped him down with leg kicks.
Yeah, I think that was, I don't know if it was Jack Slack, but I heard someone mention Rick Rufus.
It was either Jack Slack or Heavy Hands. I don't remember which one.
It was Heavy Hands, I think.
Yeah.
Fuck, I just remember hearing that name. Was that Duke's dad or his brother? I think it was his brother, right? Duke Rufus?
Yeah, Duke was in the corner for that. And
yeah.
Notoriously, afterwards, they talked shit about how leg kicks were bullshit.
Oh yeah, that's right. Let's see. Should I get to my last catch?
Brings it. I'll jump in real quick. I actually have 3 catches this week.
Go ahead.
So the second catch I have is if I did it Do you have this anywhere on your list?
Yes, I have If I Did It notes.
Okay.
So
if I
it was good.
did it, I believe it's If I Did It, Connor retires. This is kind of like a part 2 to the Showstopper V58, because also on this show for weeks and weeks and weeks, Eugene S. Robinson has been saying, hey, Conor McGregor is the Irish sports star, and he basically just comes on and gloats at Nate and Alexi.
Yeah, he's like, hey, he's like, besides me, he's like, Dana knew about it all along too.
Yeah. Eugene, my notes say Eugene is proven correct by the New York Times, which it's a lot of that, which again, a good reason to be listening to this show. Also, this is the perfect show to deal with that kind of thing. They talk about how the UFC is now in the content shoveling business, not the content providing business, where they're just shoveling content to ESPN, and it's now on ESPN to figure out how to get Conor back in the cage. UFC doesn't give a shit because they have a flat amount.
That's
now.
True. It's in the ball's in ESPN's court.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it really takes a lot of the onus off of the UFC to at all bring any kind of quality or big names to cards, because they don't give a shit. They get paid the same. Like, they'll get extra, but they are already in the green just off of if they put the card on. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. They also talk about the UFC's decision to put Cejudo in the 135 title fight, which might be kind of an additional kind of side to that same kind of coin. But it's just a fun show overall. It's really, I find that I learn a lot from that show. They also talk about the fact that go ahead.
I was going to say, I think it was Nate. He said, he's like, my opinion on Cejudo versus Moraes is the UFC throwing shit at the wall and seeing if it sticks.
Yep.
Yeah.
My favorite take, I think this was Eugene's take. It sure sounds like Eugene's take, was the fact that the news came out about this Conor McGregor thing means that, number one, the 3 or 4 mil Conor paid the lady that was rumored for a long time now, which he's been talking about for months, wasn't enough. And number two, that means that the person is probably either asking for more money or she's in talks for a book deal or a movie or that kind of thing.
Oh, God.
Which, hey, man, like...
So all I know about that whole thing, and I know it's been a rumor since December, is that the only evidence they have, evidently, as far as the investigation goes, that he was there that same day, right? That the lady was there at that hotel. Is that like the only actual concrete evidence as of right now? What's been a rumored story?
There's like, I don't know what constitutes as concrete evidence. There's a lot of fucking information out there if you go digging. Stuff like it's actually one of D. Devlin's friends is one of the.
I was gonna say, because that's one thing that I heard. I heard something about that. I heard something evidently that he had someone had screenshots of some phone conversation he had with the baby mama, or with somebody assaulted or something about another kid he has, a daughter.
There's there's a lot of. And
like, I'm not going to be saying shit as like facts, because I don't know.
It's just what I've seen.
Yeah,
mostly on Irish WhatsApp messages.
I'm not advocating anything here. I have no real thoughts on it except for that this dude's being investigated, and that's it. That's the only I can't have it.
The only thing I'm advocating is cocaine is one hell of a drug, and it makes you make poor decisions when you're on too much of it.
You're not wrong there. So
I'm just saying, it's. Man, when you're dancing on a table in Ibiza with a cutout of your face on your face, shit is not going to go well in the next couple months. I think that's the one thing we've learned that Eugene S. Robinson has been teaching us for the last 3 years. So,
yeah.
Anyway, we'll keep on moving on. But yeah, it's I would keep an eye on the Showstopper, and If I Did It, for if you guys want news that like is not filtered at all and might not be accurate all the time, but it's just what dude's been hearing. Eugene will tell you what he's been hearing. He's not at all worried to, and he's an open book when it comes to that stuff. I'll go ahead and say I DM'd him during the Tony Ferguson stuff when Jeff Sherwood put out that tweet. I was talking to him very, very briefly, just like a couple exchanges, but that dude is an open book and a very interesting dude, and he's been around the game for a long time. So just because he is not Ariel Helwani doesn't mean he doesn't have much more credible and interesting information to offer. So,
yeah, no, it's just a matter of Helwani's on the biggest platform possible, and more people.
And he's almost getting paid by
platform.
the promotion again. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
Him and Brett Okamoto are hella sus
at this
right
point
now.
Yeah. I feel like he's like the last saving grace of ESPN MMA coverage is Okamoto, but
yeah, but Okamoto also is like right on that John Morgan scale, except less credible than John Morgan. Like, he's like, if Okamoto didn't every once in a while put out uncomfortable news, I would be very worried about what the fuck coverage he's doing. Whereas John Morgan fucking is awesome. John Morgan, if you listen to his podcast, you know, like, yeah, in interviews and in scrums and stuff, he might not ask hard questions, but he's not worried about talking about hard shit. Apart from Mike Russell or Ali Abdelaziz specifically, but then again, who isn't?
Yeah. So.
You have one more catch, right?
No, that was my 3.
Oh, that was your 3rd. Okay, well then, very, very briefly, I will jump into my other catch, which was Coast to Coast Combat Hour, which is Bellator 219 and UFC Philly. Of course, they talk about Conor, quote unquote, retiring and being the Irish sports star. Matt questions whether Conor knows something about Brock that we don't, because I believe this was a quarter early in the week, and he was questioning like, hey, if Conor's trying to push real hard to not be co-main, and he's trying to push real hard to get paid, they're questioning whether or not he knows something about the Brock DC situation, which is a decent like
very
inquiry.
good point.
Yeah. Matt also talked about how he was in the arena, like not far away from Stephen Thompson's family and training partners for the Nashville fight, and how that was pretty rough. But he recapped being in the building for the Nashville card and 170 making a huge splash in 2019, which I thought was a good point from both of them, from Matt and Ed. Just because, dude, in 170-pound division in 2019 has had all of the marquee fights.
Well, that, and I mean, there's like a changing of the guard. Not necessarily, because you get someone like Wonderboy still top 5, probably, I think. Maybe. Patterson, is he top 10 now, or Fringe top 10?
I don't know or care about the rankings.
But you know what I'm saying, is there's a big shakeup now in that whole division. I mean, we have to be getting Usman versus Colby. Like, there's no way it doesn't happen next.
Yeah, it's got to happen. And what's interesting is I think a lot of the reason why 170 has been so much on the big stage lately is because 155, which I've always said, I'm of course biased because Jen's motherfucking Pulver, but I've always said, and BJ Penn and all those dudes, but I've always said 155 it has always been the best division because it's the size most people are who are not like professional athletes, like that can go to other sports. So you get the cream of the crop athletes and you get the cream of the crop like fighters, and it's just the widest variety of people and talent. So I think the fact that a lot of those guys have been moving up is a big reason why the 170 division has been shining so bright lately.
I agree, and I'm really looking forward to what Kevin Lee's going to bring, really.
Yeah, that Lee RDA fight at 170 is so much more fun.
That's going to be real good, and I'm really looking forward to that. So
same.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. That division is getting insane.
Yeah,
in a very good way.
Absolutely. The other thing they talked about on Coast to Coast Combat Hour was mostly just the ESPN taking over the UFC pay-per-view game. And then the reason why I really like this is because they are the one show this week that I heard who, apart from the Vivisection, did an in-depth breakdown of Bellator 219 at Pachanga and the one card that's happening. Which we are even not going to do an in-depth breakdown of those. Number one, because Bellator 219 and Pachanga just finished. Well, actually, I guess the post limbs are happening right now. But
one tomorrow morning or tomorrow night? Someone told me tomorrow night, like near midnight.
Yeah, prelims start at 11. Prelims start at 11:30 Pacific. Main card starts at 2:30 Pacific or AM.
So they're on Sunday then, technically too. Okay.
Yeah. It's I
Okay.
haven't decided whether I'm going to do all nighter for those or not. I might. I'm not sure yet, but
I mean, see, I'm going to a Balance Point block party tomorrow.
There you go.
And then after that, since we'll be downtown, we're going to the Padre game. So yeah, gonna have a long fucking day. And tomorrow, I'm gonna make sure I try the new Ballast Point beer, the Swing and Friar. A friend of mine says he thinks it's similar to 394. I'll have to see about that because I'm such a 394 fan.
394 is a great beer. It's probably the best
great.
beer Ballast Point makes right now.
Or AleSmith.
Sorry, that's what I meant.
Yeah, no, yeah. But that's what I'm saying. I'm gonna compare the Ballast Point one to that. I'm like, okay, well, I mean, it's a pale ale, so we'll see. I'm looking forward to that tomorrow. Yeah, man, it should be fun. The one card should be fun if I could catch any of it tomorrow.
One card should be cool as hell, and also it is free on the One Championship app and the Bleacher Report app. From what I've seen, everything that I've seen on the Bleacher Report website, the BR Live website, it all says it's going to be free on that. So that's interesting.
I'm about to check that out.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah. So I just really want to shout them out because it was a good episode from Matt and Ed, and it was cool hearing Matt's kind of takes while he was in the building for Nashville, and then also him covering Pachanga pretty extensively because he covers a lot of Bellator stuff, and of course he lives out, I believe, in Temecula, down here in Southern California. So it's definitely cool hearing more from him on that stuff where he's seen a lot of the guys on that card fight locally. Which actually, my buddy from a while back when I went to school with him and his brother, Adrian Nahara rather, was supposed to fight on that card. He trains out at San Diego Combat Academy with Liz and everybody, but evidently he ended up not being on that card. So I'm going to reach out to him and see if I can get any news on that. But yeah, he's a tough motherfucker who's training with killers. I mean, he's, I think, a 135er nowadays. And so he's training with people like Liz and everybody on the regs. And he's one of their, from what I understand, one of their main training partners that he's been working out with for a while. So I'm interested to see kind of what's up with him. And hopefully I'll get some info on that. Plus, he's just a great dude. Known him for a long time. His brother DJ is fucking a sweetheart. I've known his brother DJ since 6th grade. So
sweet, dude. That'd be sick. So was that it for your catches? Do you have any more?
That's it for me. Why don't you jump into the MMA podcast you recommend people skip this week? And also Eugene S. Robinson style disclaimer, who we've talked about multiple times on this episode already. If you guys just because we say to skip your show, and just because we say this show is worth skipping, doesn't mean we hate you, doesn't mean we hate your show, although we might hate some of the fucking garbage ass opinions you put out. But it just means that this week you kind of didn't put out content that was worth listening to. So, Chris, why don't you start us off with the MMA podcast you recommend people skip?
So, I like this podcast usually. First things first, the audio was a little echoey. This was the Gloves Off or Pure Evil MMA. It's that same podcast.
Oh, wow.
Gloves Off with James McSweeney. The host, whose name I always forget, and I apologize. Eddie? Thank you. Evil Eddie, right?
Yeah.
Shit. Oh, God, and that's what I thought it was. And James McSweeney. James McSweeney is an MMA guy. He's a teacher. Very knowledgeable English guy. However, my issue with this podcast was too much of Connor's balls in his mouth pretty much the entire time. So I'll try to get through this quickly. If Connor's truly retiring, the timing is too strange. No shit. He says, oh, he's still young. He'll probably come back. We'll see. Jury's out on that, literally and figuratively. He's under immense pressure everywhere he goes. This is the kind of shit I was listening to. James disagrees with the notion that Connor doesn't need to fight. He says every fighter needs to fight. I mean, unless you have $100 million, right? Who knows?
Or if you have a good whiskey company, which he also does not.
Yeah. James praises Connor for how he elevated the sport, earned money, etc. Yada, yada, yada. Evil Eddie makes a good point saying that Connor should have retired in the grace as GSP did, and he could have called all of his coaches and colleagues thanking them. Yeah, he could have done that, but that's not his style.
Yeah, neither is wrestling.
Clearly. But yeah, they say he should have retired to more nobility or class. It's just the whole thing.
Hard to
James,
retire with
defending...
nobility in class when you're accused of anal rape, for the record.
That, and when you throw a dolly into a bus window
and do hella coke and
with 20 other goons.
And dance on tables with a cutout of your face on your face, as Eugenius Robinson likes to
point out.
When
was that? Wasn't that like some club video or some shit?
Yeah, it was in Ibiza after the Diaz fight, if I remember right.
Oh God, that checks out.
Yeah.
See, that's my skip.
My skip is on a very similar kind of fucking tear. The MMA Reporters, episode 11. I don't know if you know this show. There's a show Ariel does.
I've heard of it multiple times.
So this used to be Ariel's version of the MMA Beat. He recently, I think actually last week, he started changing the format where he's just doing interviews. It's basically just more of the Helwani show, as always. And it's Ariel Helwani and Brett Okamoto calling in to talk about Connor.
Fun.
Yeah. It's Connor, quote unquote, retiring again. Ariel also mentions the NYT article super briefly and then proceeds to just talk about whether the UFC should give in to Connor's demands and who Connor should fight next. Which is number one, no, don't give shares in your company to a person who's being investigated for anal rape. Definitely don't do that. Also, definitely don't worry about who the fuck some dude is fighting when he's currently being investigated for anal rape. I don't know why this is crazy.
It's just it's like, hey guys, so we're gonna go ahead and talk about some MMA stuff. Oh, all those allegations, just put them aside. Who's he gonna fight? All right, we'll just talk about that for 15 minutes, right?
And that's the thing.
Is that what that is?
Yeah, they just keep pretending like the only holdup on Connor fighting is contract negotiations, where it's like, I get that the UFC for sure would fucking put Connor in the cage regardless, but you gotta imagine the fact that they're owned by a giant agency that the people working for that agency, like Ari Emanuel and the people under him, are like, hey, it's a good PR move. Maybe don't put people under investigation for anal rape in a big spot where that's going to be the main focus of the news. Maybe don't do that. After that, Mike Bond called. Go ahead.
No, I'm just talking aloud thing. They're just clearly not thinking. They just want to just
yeah. It's frustrating that again, I'd like to remind everybody, Ariel and Brett work for ESPN. And ESPN is the main broadcast partner with the UFC. Just like to remind everybody that. Mike Bond calls in. Mike Bond, not working for ESPN. He works for MMA Fighting, and Mike Bond's generally great. He talks about how the host hotel for this Philly card is evidently in fucking Delaware, which is insane. I don't know why that's the case.
Cool.
Weird as shit. Like, they have to drive hours to get to the fucking actual to get to Philly from where the host.
Because I was gonna say, it's like, I know the tri-state area, but that's not near New England, so that's odd.
I don't know if it's like a weird March Madness thing, maybe, where like the hotels were expensive, or if there's some big fucking event happening in Philly, or I don't know what the fuck is up, but that seems weird.
It's gotta be March Madness related.
You would think, right? That whole area has a ton of teams. So anyway, Ariel basically talks about to Mike now about who Connor should fight next, because that's the only relevant question that anybody cares about. They also talk about DJ and Eddie in one. Ariel complains that one is not putting DJ and Eddie immediately into title fights, and instead they're making them fight in tournaments. He thinks that's a terrible move.
Why?
Because Ariel hates ratings, and Ariel only understands fucking money fights at this point in his career.
Yeah, he doesn't know what the Japanese like or the Chinese like. Excuse me.
Yeah, well, technically, this next card is in Japan, but yeah, Chinese promotion.
Wow. See, so that's funny. I was just thinking, hey, I'm gonna try to watch this one card that in Japan, thinking that was a Japanese promotion. I'm like, no, they're Chinese.
First ever time in Japan. Yeah.
That's okay. So wow. So I
kind of right, but on it.
Okay.
To be fair, I've heard almost every podcast make that mistake outside of like Vivisection and one or two others, because everybody just assumes when you think Asian MMA, everybody thinks Japan. Whereas really it's South Korea and China at this point in time, or South Korea and
but you can just say Korea. There is no North Korea.
That's a good point. And there's only one good Korea anyway. It's the one with the fucking good beer and the technology. Let's be real. Yeah, exactly. Good beer, good internet. I'm pretty sure that's the sign on the edge of Korea when you enter it. It just says good beer, good internet. I like South Korea a lot. South Korea is dope. Everybody go watch the Cheats with Zane Lamprey in South Korea. That's in Seoul. That's one of my favorite things ever. Anyway, New York also calls in from his car. It's super worth skipping. This is when I was talking about, hey, it's kind of a thing that the ESPN people are kind of glossing over major key stories. It's maybe something to keep an eye on going forward.
Yeah.
Cool. We'll keep on moving on. Chris, what is the MMA podcast you recommend people can't miss this week?
Unfortunately, I do not have a can't miss. Hence, that's kind of why I had 3 catches.
That's right. I forgot.
Would you like to get into your can't miss, or should I briefly mention some honorable mentions? What would you like to do?
Sure. Yeah, I could jump into my can't miss. My can't miss is Frenemies episode 22 with Alexander Volkanovski.
Oh, hell yeah. That sounds like a good one.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It sounds like Sal is going to be the new co-host with Dan Hooker going forward. It sounds like Israel, since he's in the middle of training camp and stuff, he's not going to be on for a bit. But it's Sal, Dan Hooker, and Volkanovski hanging out. And Alex talks about getting the Aldo fight and seeing people like Macy around in gyms for a while now, which is kind of interesting. And they just kind of recap the card for UFC Nashville. They also, here's a great quote. Dan Hooker is talking about some of the fights. He's like, even though I like DC as a commentator, we'll move on. Because, of course, DC commentated the Edson Barboza fight.
That's right.
Let's see. Oh, Dan Hooker also talked about how fans don't ever remember how you lost, just the fact that there's an L or a W on your record. I believe he says on the lines of, that's why when I was watching the Anthony Hamilton, I was like, stay down, son. They won't remember how you fucking won in 6 months. Fucking great. It's just really funny. Overall, it's just hilarious. It's a lot of Dan Hooker being hilarious and Volkanovski being cool as shit.
I feel like that's a big narrative show by a lot of the fighters. You kind of remember your big losses more than you do your wins, especially if you can win a lot. It's you don't say it's like clockwork because nothing like that is like
and people just proceed on to say shit like, oh well, when Till beat Wonderboy, you're like, hold on. What the fuck did you just say? He didn't win that fight. Everybody agrees he did not win that fight. So yeah, it's just a fun episode. Also, Volkanovski talks about why he was originally fighting at welterweight and moved all the way down to where he is.
Oh my god!
Yeah, and he also talks about fighting against Eugene and City Kickboxing once early in his career, and hearing Dan and everybody yelling from across the cage, and they were like getting after him. So I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, overall, just a very good episode. Super fun. Dan Hooker is underrated as hell in how funny he is, and definitely recommend it.
Oh yeah, man, I'm gonna have to check that one out. Yeah, I mean, I know it's nice them having Israel in there as well, but that dude's busy marketing himself. He's in training camp for the biggest fight of his career.
Yeah, understandable why he's not around.
Kind of stepping away. Yeah, so totally understandable. If you'd like, I'm just gonna quickly shout out some honorable mentions?
Real quick before you jump into honorable
Okay.
mentions, I wanted to shout out. I did listen to a new show this week, and you'll be
Okay.
surprised. Have you heard your boy Robbie has a podcast?
As in Brutal Bob Robbie Lawler?
Nope. As in Robbie from Barstool Sports.
Wait, is he? I know
He's the
that
guy who
name, but
stands outside of all the Connor everythings and holds a sign being like, I'm with Connor, bro. He was notorious for, I believe, when Connor got arrested, he was the one who kept showing up with signs. He's fucking the worst. Do you really not know who I'm talking about right now?
let me look it up. Hold on, keep talking.
Look him up. When you see him, you'll immediately know who I'm talking about. He's the skinny nerd from Barstool who just stands for Conor McGregor all the time. But anyway, surprisingly, his podcast isn't that bad, man. So he mentioned that he previously had a wrestling podcast, and he actually put this podcast out.
This motherfucker! I've seen this guy.
You know what I'm talking about. You've seen him on Reddit for sure.
No. People look up his Reddit all the time.
Yeah, he's a Momo. But he released this episode the day before the New York Times piece broke, which is hilarious. At which point he had to put out a giant kind of blog post talking about like, well, hopefully this news about Connor isn't real, but if it is, obviously I condone it, and that would be horrible, and no one wants that to be the case, but I will wait to see how it turns out, and it was very funny. Well, not funny, haha, but actually his podcast.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Sorry, I just had to say one thing. Yeah, this guy, I definitely remember this guy because he's a huge nerd, and the fact that I don't know if I know you know what the Avengers are. Obviously, the whole Endgame, that movie comes out next month. Really hyped, right? There's this meme I keep seeing going around social media where they're like, oh, Paul Rudd's in the film now, right? Ant-Man, can't he just go up Thanos' asshole and then just grow big? So Robbie Fox, of course, while people wrote an article about that theory and how now that's becoming a trending internet thing, which that's a total internet thing to do. Wow. I know who this Robbie guy is. I remember his shit on Instagram now. So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
No, you're all good. But yeah, actually, Robbie is kind of crazily a pretty toned down version of himself on the show. It's pretty weird. He's not like super crazy. He says the show's only going to be about MMA occasionally. It's mostly going to be guest focused. And then he shouted out, he's like, I can't do a podcast on my own, just like a straight up like Theo Vaughn or Bill Burr style show. I'm like, Jesus Christ, this seems like a totally different person than the idiot I've heard yelling about Conor McGregor for the last 2 years. Dana White also calls in, which what the fuck?
Of course he does.
Yeah, Dana White evidently loves Barstool, or at least he knows who the fuck Robbie is. So they recap UFC.
Boston. He's a fucking Beantown boy.
Fucking Boston, dude. They recap UFC Nashville, and they talk a bit about the new ESPN pay-per-view deal. Dana White at one point says that there will be no 165-pound division as long as he's involved in the UFC.
Which means don't believe his lies. It's coming in the end of the year.
Or it means he's the reason why the fuck they're.
Or he's telling the truth.
Yeah, which either way would be horrible. Also, they play a game called Goof or No Goof.
That checks out.
Yep. Of course, they bring up Ariel, who Dana calls a dork and made fun of him for crying after being banned. Because of course he did. Robbie also talks about dealing with depression and anxiety. It's a weird show. It was like 30 minutes. Robbie was almost a human being, which is very weird for me to deal with. I don't know how I feel about it, but it was a thing. So anyway, Chris, why don't do you have any, what's your recommendation for a well-rounded show this week in honor of the co-main event podcast? Do you have any shows that are not MMA related that you recommend people check out?
I mean, besides the occasional Bill Burr, no. I mean, listen to a couple of clips of some Joe Rogan stuff, but if I recall, I think that was from like early last week because this past weekend I was in Arizona for baseball shit. So I'll be honest, I was all baseball hyped in this whole week, unfortunately.
Understandably.
Not unfortunately for me, but unfortunately for you guys, because you don't give a fuck about baseball.
No,
unless you're a Red Sox fan.
Well, that actually segues me in pretty decently to the Joe Rogan Experience episode with Billy Corben, where he talks about his new documentary Screwball. Billy Corben, of course, being the documentarian who did the Cocaine Cowboys documentaries as well as the U.
Right.
And
both great documentaries.
Yeah, and his new one is about Screwball. It's called Screwball, which is about the A-Rod situation and him getting popped for steroids. And it's supposed to be hilarious because evidently A-Rod got popped for steroids because some fucking sketchy ass doctor who didn't really have a degree or who had a sketchy degree was just giving everybody all of the drugs. And at one point he just started writing down A-Rod on all of his fucking documentation, and he got caught up because he wouldn't pay a guy $4,000.
Yeah.
So
and it's like, dude, someone only wants $4,000.
Yeah, you're like, dude, yeah, A-Rod was got to be pissed.
Like,
you didn't.
If that was me, and I was like one of the best players in baseball, and say I was taking steroids, right? Whether you're, well, Kenny Powers, you want to be fictional, still a good example. If someone says, all right, yeah, if someone goes, hey man, I'll expose you. All you need to pay me is $4,000. In my head, I'd be like, wait, that's it? Here's $8,000. You can go fuck yourself.
Right. Shouts out to fucking Florida.
Yeah.
But yeah, just a great episode. Billy Corben is fantastic as always. I'm a big fan of his. And then Ari Shaffir put out on his podcast feed, Skeptic Tank. He did a table read of a script he wrote in college called Shooter.
Oh, I already have first thoughts. Just let me.
Well, so it's about how he is a white dude who plays basketball, and it's a fucking horrible script. There's a lot of talk about food for no reason, and Ari just making fun of people for eating normal amounts of food. It's fucked up, but the best part about it is he gives you the rules at the beginning for the drinking game for it, where every time Ari talks about food or every time there's in the script, it's written down what the facial expression of the character is supposed to be, which you don't write in scripts.
You don't.
So that's fantastic.
He's like, hey, let me write a terrible script that can also be linked to a shitty drinking game that I'll make all my friends do after I tell them, hey, want to hear my script I wrote? Sure, man,
so the drinking game was actually created afterwards. It was created for the audience that he did it live in front of. Right. But it's let's see, it's Big J Okerson, Ari, Michelle Wolf, Dave Attell, and one or two other people who are all on it. And it's very fucking funny. So I highly recommend checking that out because it's, oh boy, is it weird as hell, but it's very funny. Also, don't play the drinking game where you let girlfriend Karen pick a drinking rule and she says every time anyone says shooter, take a drink, because that shit does not work well when it's a script and there's fucking narrative direction for shooter on every sentence. I was blacked out in the first 20 minutes and I made her change the rule. So, pro tip. But that's the only well-rounded stuff I had. Is there any other MMA podcasts you wanted to briefly shout out that were as some honorable mentions for this week?
Yeah, last one for me. If you're into betting or picks, I highly recommend MMA Takes with host Brian Peachery. He just literally goes through every fight. Takes like 30 minutes. Goes through the odds. I'll get into the odds of one of these fights, and you're going to hear me how the fuck is that possible. Oh, once you bring up best fight odds in a bit, you'll see what I'm talking about. And the other one, if you're a gambler or if you're a gambler, fuck it, I'll use that term. Listen to Mixed Martial Arts Analyst with Dan Tom or Protect Your Neck.
Yeah, Protect Your Neck podcast is fantastic.
I had to skip the first 10-15 minutes because he talks movie stuff. However, he did talk Deadwood. He's watching Deadwood now, so
Deadwood's so good. Everybody go subscribe to the Co-Main Event podcast and listen to Road Agents.
He's been doing a lot of tape study lately, and tape study was stressing him out, so he's staying up late every night, and tense situations led him to finally see the movie The Hurt Locker, which is also a very stressful movie. Very good.
That is the most stressful movie. Yeah. That movie's all about tense situations.
Very good movie, but smoke a lot of weed, so it balances out. That's a very
even then. I feel like Dan Tom is standing in front of the Fight Pass subscription, trying to figure out what movie to watch or what fight to watch, and he just can't make a decision.
Yeah,
there's a hell of a reference for you.
Dan Tom repeats, "I do not like American football. I never have. I never will. Fuck everybody." Sure, you didn't have to say that because I don't care. But all right,
I feel you, bro. I'm right there with you, Dan Tom.
Yeah,
fuck American football because
then again, the Chargers kind of fucked us.
I was gonna say, well, San Diego sports in general could eat a bag of dicks.
Hey, the Padres are good.
Oh, that's what you guys say every season. Hey, let me know how it works out when they fucking eat a bag of dicks in the finals immediately.
Oh, well, see, we haven't gotten there yet. Once I get back to the World Series, I'll get back to you.
Right? No, they have to get your hopes up first before they fuck you.
No, you're not wrong, but
that's how San Diego sports works. Is they get your hopes up and then they just fall the fuck apart.
Trust me, it's just fun playing along.
Except then you have to watch baseball.
I mean, to be fair, I'm going to the game tomorrow. Why do you think I'm going to the game instead of watching on TV? You got to be there.
You're going because you're drinking. Let's be real.
Yeah. I'm going to a block party, drinking, unlimited tasters, and then drinking some more. So I will be dead on Sunday.
That's right. Also, how shitty is Petco going to get now that Budweiser is buying Cutwater?
I don't even want to think about that right now.
Sorry, way to bring it down.
Upsetting.
Anyway. Do you have any other ones other than Protect Your Neck?
No, that was it for me.
Cool. So let me write that down so I remember. Protect your neck. All right. So I've got a handful. I'm just going to run through them because otherwise it's going to take all day. MMA Roadshow episode 209. Shouts out to John Morgan, currently in San Diego. Well, Temecula technically for Bellator 219. He's over at Pachanga. He recorded an episode with Anthony from Latchkey Brewing, which is down in the old. Where is it? I think it's the old Mission Brewery circle, right?
No, that's what it is. Yeah, I remember you told me this as well before.
Yeah, so Anthony brought over a double hazy as well as a triple for them to drink, which they get good and sauced on this episode. It was a lot of fun. They talk about Connor quote unquote retiring and constantly getting in trouble. John plays an interview with Macy about the win. Macy brought up something that I haven't heard anyone else mention and that I didn't pick up on while watching the fight, but she said a lot of the problem was she got lit up so bad by JJ early as she started off in Southpaw, which she had trained in all camp, but it just wasn't working in the fight. So she recognized that. She came out in the orthodox stance in the second round, and that was what contributed to a lot of her success, which is interesting to hear because I hadn't heard anyone bring that up, and I didn't pick up on it. And then after that, they mostly talk about Bellator 219. John talks about Pachanga. John also shouts out the Steakhouse Pachanga, which is supposed to be really good, evidently. I've never been.
I have been
Pachanga
there.
where we went to see Bill Burr?
No. I saw Tom Segura there last year, and I was at the steakhouse. My dad had this ballin' ass dinner with a bunch of his fucking colleagues, and it was amazing. I had steak and lobster. I remember. Yep, I was at the steakhouse. Thank you.
Yeah,
that was amazing.
It's
like a 200. I enjoyed a $200 bottle of wine. Yep, yeah, it's like Oak Room. Yeah, I had a $200 bottle of wine, and it was really good.
By the way, y'all, Chris's dad balls out.
Depends, but he spoils himself.
I was gonna say when he goes out with buddies and stuff, your dad does pretty well.
Or he knows people that can spoil themselves.
Well,
hey, Jim, you want to join us?
Yeah,
sure.
Shouts out to being involved in San Diego. We'll say the upper end of San Diego for a while now. It was pretty cool hearing John talk about how he really liked Pachanga. Where do we still see Bill Burr? Was that Pachanga or was that
That was Harrah's.
I mix Harrah's, Viejas, and Pachanga together.
It's like Harrah's, I think, is like 20 minutes south of Pachanga, or like 15. It's pretty close.
They're all pretty close to where I am, actually.
Yeah, or Harrah's like above Escondido. But like
right.
But like Pachanga's like near Anaheim or Temecula. Pachanga's in Temecula.
Is it? Yeah, it is
Yeah.
Temecula. You're right.
Yeah.
What's the
And
one out
Harris.
near me? Viejas?
Yeah. Yeah, you're near
Okay.
Viejas.
I mix the three of them up so every fucking time.
And then the other one
Because
you're
I've
near
never gone there
is
sober to any of them.
Verona, right? Or no,
Yeah,
Verona's more East Lake.
Verona is like not too far from me, I think, if I
Yeah,
remember
Verona's
right.
East Lake. I remember that Wildcat Canyon Road. Anyways, don't drive that.
Yeah. But regardless, you guys don't give a shit about San Diego shitty casinos.
Fuck all your side.
By the
comments.
way, they're all bad. They're all just giant hotels, basically, with overpriced everything. But they all do serve some beer. So that's one plus of most San Diego casinos. Anyway, other than that, John plays an interview with Artem about bare knuckle, interview with Volkanovski about the Aldo fight. Overall, pretty good. TSN MMA show episode 83 was pretty solid. Talk Connor's quote unquote retirement. And that's where Joe Valtellini did the breakdown of how Anthony Pettis beat Wonder Boy. They also talk a bit about UFC Nashville. They also on that show have been doing picks for bets. Stuff like parlays for UFC Nashville and bets they like on the Philly card, which is kind of cool to hear. Slip and Dip, episode 93 with Kamaru Usman, or no, sorry, not Kamaru Usman, Muhammad Usman and Stephen Wright, Kamaru's brother. Stephen Wright's not Kamaru's brother. Muhammad Usman is Kamaru's brother. Anyway, they talk a bit about, they talk to Muhammad about his recent win and fighting in LFA and him trying to make his way to the UFC. They also talk to him about training at Fortis, which he's been doing, and being there when Kamaru won the belt. Stephen Wright came on, talk about the Pettis KO and using that rear leg kick. Pretty cool. He also talks about working with Kamaru and Muhammad on some of their game planning and stuff. And some Spence Garcia talk. Eurobash 29 was good. There's an interview with Nathaniel Wood about his win in UFC London. They also talked to Phil DeFries about his win and Jack Hermanson about fighting David Branch. Behind the Paywall, March 25th, 2019. It's basically an old Sherdog Radio Network reunion show. Fucking Reese from Minot calls in, talk about working in the oil field. Let's see. Brandon from New Jersey calls in to reminisce about old times. They joke that they're calling him for the round table, which he asked will be on the round table every week and they'll never put him on. So they call him in the middle of the night and they're like, "Hey Reese, we're doing a round table for this card. You ready?" He's like, "Oh, what, man? I'm not drinking it in, man." Let's see. Oh, and then Jeff and TJ fucked with Jeff's casual buddy Chad about offering him an MMA radio show in Minot. Just a weird bit, but good. Heavy Hands 266 we talked about. That was good. The Hammer MMA episode 447 was solid. Dave and Seaver in studio. Greg called in. I listened
to that one too.
Yeah, it's a good one, right? Like they talk about Connor being the Irish sports star. They talk about, let's see, Marlon versus Cejudo and how they're both managed by Ali and how that makes that weird. They were also one of the few shows that previewed the one card and recap Nashville before talking about Philly.
Weren't they the show that said since Ali's a manager, all the Twitter beef will be fake?
Well, yeah, it's just Ali talking back and forth between his two clients. It's Ali talking to himself on his Twitter, on his client's Twitters. Yeah.
He's like this. Ooh, what would be a good diss? Oh, what would I say back? Ooh, this is fun because he's fucking crazy. So
Ali's the worst. Anyway,
Robert crazy.
That's right. So that's what I got for a podcast to check out this week. But as always, you guys can always let us know what shows we're sleeping on and what shows we should catch. Hit us up on Twitter, TSOVPod, and we will check that out. I don't know what our clips are for the podcast this week, so you guys will hear that when I figure it out later tonight or tomorrow morning. But we're going to go ahead and take a break, and we will be back here in a couple minutes to start off our breakdown of the UFC on ESPN2. Is that how that goes? It's UFC on ESPN.
It's ESPN main, so just
UFC
on ESPN2. Yeah.
Right. That's the thing though. It's not on ESPN2.
So does that mean when
the second card on ESPN?
So does that mean when it gets to 8 we'll call it the Ocho?
You're not the first to make that joke, and you're definitely not the last. So we will go ahead and wrap this here. We'll be back in a couple of minutes to start our breakdown of that card. So till then, everybody. go check out this clip that I don't know what it is. It's probably Eugene S. Robinson hinting about Conor McGregor being the Irish sports star before y'all were actually interested in it. So check it out.